I just watched through all of Mr. Beast's new Amazon Prime show. And this is what it felt like.
Speed, I'm watching the stream while you try not to laugh, bro. That's disrespectful, bro. What's wrong with you, bro? Stop laughing, bro.
I never thought there'd be a day where I make a video about Mr. Beast of all people. But while bored last week, I decided to sit through the 3 available episodes of Beast Games, the hit new game show by a little-known YouTuber, Jimmy Beast. Might not have heard of him, guys. I kinda got in on the underground here. I had no expectations going into this. I never watched the trailer, the press release, the apparent lawsuits. I went in blind, and if I'm being honest with ya, it was entertaining. The guy has evidently crafted the perfect formula for making a piece of content that keeps your attention. A short burst of dopamine showcasing what it would be like to acquire $1 bazillion, as well as being as frivolous as possible with it. That's all he really sets out to do, and I think he accomplishes that well, all things considered. A TV show, though? That's a different story. Those kinda need things like narratives and setups followed by payoffs and stuff. Unfortunately, Beast Games comes off like a high-budget Mr. Beast video, which are already so high-budget for YouTube standards that as an average viewer, you can barely tell the difference. In reality, Beast Games was designed to be Squid Game, but more. I'm sure after seeing the catastrophic popularity of his Squid Games recreation, Amazon found it only natural to give the guy a shit ton of money to do what's basically that, but on a larger scale. And without another company's copyright. You know, it all feels extremely intentional. It's super blatant. The new Squid Game reality show is offering $4.5 million? Well, we're offering $5 million. They've got a whopping 456 contestants? Puh, well, we got over double that at 1,000. It's clearly all designed around making you want to check it out. There's such a large pool of money and a massive amount of folks that could possibly acquire it. And whereas something like Squid Game is almost faceless in a way, other than the Netflix logo, I guess, Mr. Beast is not only a brand, but a face. What's he gonna do with $100 million to splurge? How far can he go? And it's resulted in a show that, well, sure, is entertaining to watch, but it makes you feel kinda dirty in a way. It's all pretty dystopian. You know how Squid Game has the reveal that the whole event is being viewed and enjoyed by these VIPs? These super rich folk who are observing the whole thing as if the contestants are just rats and enemies. Well, Beast Games really makes you feel like you're one of those guys, and I can't tell if it's intentional or not. Like, so much of the show highlights the pure desperation of these people to get money that could change not only their lives, but their families' lives for generations. But it's almost as if the show wants to push aside and ignore all the depressing connotations that come with being that desperate. Subscribe, keeping in just enough for you to feel some sort of emotional attachment to the contestant, but not enough for you to actively feel distraught at the sight of them going home empty-handed. So many shots are just close-ups of these real people in tears, and I can't tell how much Jimmy wants to focus on the reality of that.
How you feeling?
I'm sad.
Everyone in your row.
Jimmy, let her finish her sentence for Christ's sake. It only gets more apparent with each subsequent episode, to the point where the show is only entertaining if you're able to completely disconnect from the idea that these are real people who have to go home with nothing after only dreaming about what they could do with that kind of money. Now, some of you may be thinking, well, that's any game show, you know? And to that I say, well, there's a couple major differences, those mainly being, 1. Most game shows don't award the winner with $5 million. Not that they offer chump change or anything, but the prospect of having a 1 in 1,000 chance of winning that kind of money has gotta be soul-crushing. I watched The Chase, and half the time when those contestants do win, it's like $4 grand each, and they're happy to have that. 2. Most game shows usually vet their contestants, which I'm sure they've done here, you know, I hope so. But because most tend to revolve around a skill or talent, like general knowledge or something, it means that going in, the contestant already has a pretty solid idea of what they're going to be up against. Whereas with something as broad as Beast Games, it's anyone's guess. Unless your guess was reusing a bunch of concepts already done in his normal videos, in which case, ding ding ding. And 3, most game shows don't feature the contestants sobbing their hearts out upon losing. Kinda stops being fun after a while. And it's only upon laying out these 3 points that I had come to understand, oh, Beast Games isn't a game show, it's a reality show. And a pretty shallow one at that. Fairly obvious in retrospect, but I don't know, with a title like Beast Games, I was expecting a game show, sue me. Like, Beast Games is a game show in the same way that Big Brother is a game show. Sure, people compete for money at the end of the day. However, instead of doing that through knowledge or skill, it's through random chance, and, in a lot of cases, social manipulation. I want to do my best to avoid acknowledging the elephant in the room right now, and that's of course all the drama currently surrounding the show, and furthermore the MrBeast brand as a whole. People claim their poor living conditions, borderline torture to their physical and mental health, all that fun stuff. Instead, I want to focus on the show itself for now, because while watching, I couldn't help but consistently think, oh wow, you're gonna have 1,000 contestants? Only to unceremoniously eject half of them before they have the chance to do anything, okay? Wow, you've built this giant tower in the center of your MrBeast themed city, only to have the height of the games consist of throw the ball off the tower. Twice. With half the games, there really is no challenge for most of the contestants. It's merely throwing money in their face and seeing if they'll crack. Which I'll be first to admit, can be entertaining. The first episode sees MrBeast stand everyone on a podium and put some relatively small amount of money on the table and see whoever takes it. With that not only eliminating them, but their entire row. Like, dude, that's deviously genius. You got one guy claiming he wouldn't budge for anything but admits he had a price in mind. Then bro takes the first goddamn offer on the table and screws over his entire team. Like, that's great. Fuck you, dude. I love you. But fuck you. Or you got this guy who's convincing his whole team to not take the offer as they're in the last stage of the game before the prize goes up to 100k, and he immediately takes it. And while his whole team are in tears over this betrayal, he's over the moon as he's just won 100 grand. Screw these guys. Like, that's fun to watch, but at the same time, like, it's monkey content. And feels to make me feel anything other than pure empathy, after I realized that all these people got the chance of a lifetime and had it squandered through no fault of their own. Which is the whole point, obviously, like, I get it. But most of the time, the series wants to almost act like that's not really happening. The others being sad is just a quick reaction shot to focus on before we move on. And it's probably also why the show never takes the time to really establish any of these people beyond anything other than a mere number. Also kind of the issue with having 1,000 contestants. Something I found interesting was comparing Beast Games to not only Squid Game, but Squid Game, The Challenge, or whatever the hell it was called. Basically when Netflix wanted to make their own Squid Game reality contest. I watched it when it came out, apparently. I argued with someone for like 30 minutes over whether or not I sat through this only for them to put on episode 1 and go, oh yeah. Went in one ear and out the other. But even from just rewatching the first episode, I noticed the immediate difference between it and Beast Games. It had a structure. They did this crazy thing where they would do frequent interviews with the players so that you could follow along with their strengths, weaknesses, how they felt about the game, how they felt about their fellow players, and most importantly, you learn their goals, why they want this money. In a lot of ways, it's the same old slop, trying to harp off the success of a show they clearly didn't care about the message of. But it works. There are people here that you follow along with from the start until, well, whenever they get put out. But at the end of the day, you can feel the intent behind every scene, why they're showing you these specific interviews. It's all building towards a certain narrative. However, on the other hand, Beast Games can have a good chunk of an episode dedicated to these 4 people being offered upwards of $1 million in exchange for leaving and eliminating their whole team as a result. Which none of them do, all 4 being heralded as heroes. Yet the show is moving at such a fast pace that next to no attention is put onto the fact that one of these guys is put out the very next round. And worst part is, it's over one of the many games that boils down to, okay, when do you leave now? Then MrBeast just waltzes on up and asks, so, should you have taken the $1 million? I probably still wouldn't. And then we move on. Anytime the show does want to put focus on narrative, it's in the most blatant way possible. One of those 4 later gets picked to have a free pass for the next round, as one of her teammates wanted to repay her. That's sweet. Oh wait, there's MrBeast looming in the background. Oh fuck, oh shit, he's getting closer.
Hey, that's like good karma for you not taking that $1 million, right?
Yeah, thanks. Well wait, except no, because in the other scenario, she still would have been in the game, while also removing a bunch of competition, while also being a millionaire. Apparently, a bunch of stuff just happened in this show off-screen. There was a pregnant lady, someone proposed to their girlfriend, not that we saw any of it. That was all explained in articles during the show's release as MrBeast chimes in. Yeah, that did happen. The whole thing just feels like it's made by an algorithm that knows what it's doing, surely, but as a result of it trying to ensure nobody's bored for even a second, we lose the most crucial aspect of not only a reality show, but a game show too. And that's knowing any of these people enough to care about who wins. Sometimes, someone will choose a group to come with them to the next round and go, yeah, these guys have been by my side from the start, we've become really good friends. And I'm sat there like, bro, I haven't seen you before, I don't care. It gets to a point where the contestants have such little screen time that all they can do to describe them is yelled during timer game. Creeped Out by Jeremy. What both of these shows mutually accomplish, though, is fundamentally misunderstanding the point of Squid Game. Sad main point being, you're not supposed to like that this is happening. Obviously, the crucial difference is that in Squid Game, people are dying instead of being eliminated. You know, in Beast Games, people aren't dying. They're just almost dying. But I was watching the newest season of Squid Game that just released coincidentally, or perhaps uncoincidentally, around the same time as Beast Games. And the first couple episodes cannot make it any more clear what the show is trying to say about the human condition. And it all comes down to the concept of gambling. The whole driving force behind the entire show is that these people are so desperate for money that they're willing to put not only their own lives at risk, but the lives of 455 other humans. It was an incredibly smart decision to make it clear that the players inside Squid Game can leave whenever they want. All they have to do is have a majority agree on splitting the prize. But they can't do that because of their inherent greed. It's perfectly illustrated in one of the first episodes of Season 2, where we see the Squid Game recruiter go to a public park and start offering homeless people one of two options: a piece of food or a lotto ticket, in which we see a majority of them choose the lottery ticket. They would rather the minuscule prospect of fortune than an immediate aid that benefits them in the moment. However, you know, in Squid Game, people aren't gambling with money, but with their lives. And like I said, of course the contestants of Beast Games aren't dying as a result of their choice to take part. But it's as if Mr. Beast completely overlooks the fact that the people behind Squid Game aren't the good guys. Like the idea of referring to each contestant by their number and not their actual name. Of course, this is something lifted directly from Squid Game, without understanding that they only did that to further the satire, that these people are seen as nothing more than a number. Their lives are seen as so meaningless that it's not even worth remembering their names. And while Beast Games eventually does start to name the contestants they want to focus on, the other 99% barely get a second of screen time, never mind a name check. It's getting to a serious point where the satire is so good that people are trying to replicate it without understanding the entire message of said satire. Like when Mr. Beast did his first Squid Game recreation, it was fun, you know? It was a quick 20-minute video that was more impressive than anything, that he could recreate all these sets that accurately. It's something for a guy to share with his work colleagues and move on with their day. Subscribe to Mr. Beast on the way out in the hopes of running into him someday and getting a free house or something. I can't imagine the video would be nearly as novel if it were 7 hours long. And that's basically what we have here. And hey, I'll give Squid Games this. At least the games were actual games. I'll say it again because it bears repeating. Beast Games is entertaining, but it's more so only from seeing these people manipulate and stab each other in the back over money more than anything. Like, I think the best and most ruthless challenge they've done comes in episode 3, where Jimmy has everyone get into teams of 3, them obviously choosing to get with their friends, only for Jimmy to lock them all in a room for hours, until one of them decides to handcuff themselves to a wall, signaling their self-elimination and allowing the other two to move on. Like, that's great. Not as fun to watch when all the crying starts, but it's stuff like this that really highlights how many of these people will turn into scumbags the second the prospect of losing money hits them. You got this boyfriend-girlfriend duo deciding to play Uno with this other person, only for them to cheat and look at the other person's cards, resulting in them getting mad, not wanting to leave, and everybody losing. The opposite also happens where this guy fairly loses a game, but despite the rules, just refuses handcuffing himself, fucking over everybody. Or you got the absolute Giga Chad move where these two guys somehow convince this lady, who was bawling her eyes out from the get-go, to leave the game before revealing on their way out that they're fucking brothers. One of them trying their hardest not to laugh as this lady just sits there in tears. Like, what the fuck? No. That challenge would be so much more impactful if there weren't another 5 games exactly like that in the other episodes. With half the games they've got in here, there's no challenge involved. It's mostly just, hey, if I give you 10 grand, will you leave right now? Sure. Cool. Like, I will admit, it can be fun to watch. But when you really think about it, it's hard not to feel like the plan here is to quickly burn through as many contestants as possible, as quickly as possible, in order to get the number down, as I'm sure managing 1,000 people like this has gotta be tricky. Hell, in the first game, which just consists of one person taking the money and screwing over their entire row, we see half of the players get eliminated before they even get the chance to actually do anything. What's fair about that? Again, if a one-time thing, who cares? But it's half of these fucking games that gets so infuriating because, like I said, there's no skill or talent involved here. Any one of these people could have been the winner. It was just a matter of where Jimmy chose to place them at the start of the event. Like, what's the point in building these giant fuck-off towers if all you're gonna get people to do on them is try to throw a ball into a target? Twice. Every time they hype up the game, you get yourself pumped. Okay, this one's gotta be crazy, just look at this shit. Then Jimmy explains the rules and it's just, pick someone to go. Here's a game where you all need to agree on someone to give your coins to, and if he has over 100, he can choose 5 of you to go on to the next round with him. Cool, I guess, there's something different there at least. Then we get to the final event of the same game, and the challenge consists of agreeing on someone to give your coins to so they can go on to the next event. Like, it's just the same thing with a slightly different outcome. It's then you realize the entire thing is so shallow. There's no point in this giant-ass Mr. Beast city. These games could just as well be played with an empty field and a stepladder. He could have just sat everyone in his mansion and gone, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, you win the million, everyone go. I mean, it would have saved him a lot of controversy. Now, who's to say what Mr. Beast is being accused of, in relation to the show at least, is actually true? I think that's kind of the issue when you have as many as 1,000 contestants. Apparently it was 2,000 in the preliminaries. That's a lot of people to keep track of, especially when you have to take into account certain dietary and medical needs. The reality is, you could treat every single one of these people like royalty. You could even give everyone $2 grand just for participating. But as long as one person thinks they've been mistreated in some way, then it's nothing more than a PR disaster waiting to happen. Who's to say others won't then see this and jump in to share their own 2 cents, get their 5 minutes of fame? The truth is, these are all people who are willing to give up days of their lives to make it big. Taking time off work, time away from their families, there's no loyalty to Mr. Beast here. If these are people who are willing to stab their fellow man in the back, then why should a beast be exempt? You want any more proof of this? Just take a pause anytime we get a shot of the crowd and take a look at how many of these guys already have headshots made. There's a clear goal here for these people. And it ain't just to take part in a fun game show where half the challenges consist of, okay, you go now. God forbid somebody actually gets hurt on set. It's at that point you may start to resent the fact that at the center of all this is your face. Like, if somebody gets injured on the set of The Chase, who is the public gonna go after? This lady? I don't think so. But for every perceived mistreatment, for every unhealthy chocolate bar, every shoddy burger, every moldy cheese, no matter how drippy, all fingers point to one person. Chandler! Knew something was off about that guy. No, I watched a good Mr. Beast video or two. He was definitely one of those creators I just avoided like the plague once he began blowing up, purely based off the fact that everybody was talking about him. But after that Squid Game video came out, I gave it a look, and eventually became an avid watcher of these videos. They accomplish what they set out to do. They're entertaining. And I have no doubt that Mr. Beast only wanted to accomplish that same goal, but on the scale that a TV budget brings. But I think he just got so caught up in how much he could outdo the competition, as well as himself. You know, how many records he could break, that he never took the time to step back and consider whether or not this was something he was capable of. There were questions here clearly not troubleshooted enough, like, why has no game show had 1,000 contestants before? And, really that's it. It's like he got so caught up in whether or not he could, that he never stopped to ask himself if he should. I mean, hell, he succeeded. But at what cost to his reputation?
So many people just think, I don't know. Do you think I'm evil?
At the end of the day, though, something I think people need to realize is that Mr. Beast is beginning to border on being too big to fail. Like, the biggest video we've seen trying to discredit the guy acquired a staggering 15 million views. Like, that's insane. But when you take a step back and look at the bigger picture, if every one of the people watching this video also is subscribed to Mr. Beast and comes out of it with a negative enough impression to actively unsubscribe, then the guy still has well over 300 million subscribers. The reality of the situation here is that no matter what happens, this has become a Jimmy Beast world, and we're all just living in it. Saying all that, Mr. Beast, the price tag for me to delete this video is currently set at $100,000.